Welcome everyone to Beyond Email using Google Voice to increase engagement. This is our 20th anniversary for online learning and innovation. And we are, of course, in the middle of our virtual summer event, which is also a first time. Today we have Dr. Scott Vann, the Director of Digital Learning at the University of Memphis. Scott oversees the UM3D instructional designer team that manages all of U of M global online courses. His focus and analysis on learning needs and goals and the development of innovation delivery methods to meet those needs. Scott has 12 years of experience working with higher education and supporting online learning, and I share with him an interest in how we can use Google Voice. So, Dr. Vann, I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark, for the introduction. I'm excited to be able to join you all today here. I appreciate the invite to be able to share what I've been using in my class for a little while. So this isn't going to be a very technical presentation. It's more of a practitioner how-to and some common use cases that I find it helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen pulled up here. So if there's any questions about this, feel free to put those in chat and ask away. I'll also have time at the end to prepare for questions. I try not to do death by PowerPoint, so I've got just a few slides to be able to show some examples, some screenshots setting up, and I'll be happy to open it up for questions and then kind of do a demo too if you like to see it. See some of the settings in the back end of Google Voice. I think it is a great product you'll find helpful. So as Mark said, I've been in the higher ed space for a little while now. Been with Tennessee eCampus, I think now for 4 years, teaching as an adjunct. One thing that I've found as I've been teaching for a while, and I'm sure that many of you as well, is that our students, we're in a very mobile device generation. We all have our smartphones. I know I use mine daily. Most of my management, even at the university leadership, actually get more text messages from administration lately than actually do phone calls. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with our current pandemic that we're still in. Many of us are still not in the office. Myself, I am actually working remotely today. I do go to the office occasionally, but many of us are still working remotely. So I want to be able to talk about Google Voice and how it can provide you not only as an asset as a faculty member engagement within your course, but also as a way to connect to your students virtually. So just a couple statistics we have here. None of this will probably come as a surprise to many of you, but there's 292 million people right now in North America that use text messages daily. Again, pretty much everyone that's on this call, as well as probably watching this recording later, you probably send a text message right before this, or we'll probably be sending one right after it. That's 80% of North America's population. 85% of customers prefer receiving text messages over a phone call or email. This came from Business Insider, and I'm sure many of our students feel the same way as well. 92% of U.S. adults carry text-enabled phones and using text on a regular basis. And so, and those students in our adult population, when they're actually joining and connecting to your class, many of them are actually doing it from their smartphones. I know I've had several students reach out to me in the past about registering for their phones or any type of issues that they've had connecting. So it's definitely a much used device within our virtual classrooms. And then here at the University of Memphis, we've actually gotten statistics through D2L, Desire to Learn, who is our LMS provider, that 72% of our students are accessing online courses via their mobile devices, and that's their smartphones and tablets. So within your courses today that if you're teaching, many of your students, if not all of them, are actually using mobile devices not only connect to your courses, but maybe they're using them to email you, be able to register for those classes. It's definitely a much used tool within our society today. All right, so texting in the virtual classroom, here's some different tools too that I actually just highlighted a few of them. So while we are talking about Google Voice today, I wanted to be able to pinpoint a few other tools, just kind of keep in mind, and you're welcome to go and kind of Google or search these later. I'll be happy to share this PowerPoint too with the links into. But Remind, this is a tool that some of our faculty at the University of Memphis have actually let me know that they've used in their courses. But it allows instructors to send text messages and email to students to offer reminders and updates for the class. It reminds Remind allows instructors to communicate with their classes without the instructor or students having to share their phone numbers. So they're able to sign up for this service, and then when you're able to send out these kind of bulletin board messages, if you will, that's being shared without having to share your personal cell phone, or the student can sign up and have to give their number out. So it's a great service to be able to post, reminders in the class and different updates that you have throughout the semester. You've probably heard or used Poll Anywhere. It's a great way to be able to keep engagement within your courses. And this would be more for the synchronous experiences. So if you're doing like a synchronous type of webinar or type of presentation, you may want to use something like Poll Anywhere to have students text their responses. And they can actually use their cell phone to give feedback, answer questions within the course, as well as take quizzes, such as a quiz option within there. Cellly provides group messaging. So if you want to be able to set up a group message for your course, you can actually use this service. They can take notes as well in there, polls. You can actually filter messages, and you can also, the service allows for organizing, holding virtual study groups as well. And the last option there on the list is Study Boost. It allows students to study via text message for quizzes. This service was created more for the K through 12 market, but there are some higher education options as well in there that's pre-built. And then as an instructor, you can actually go in there and create your own questions and have open-ended responses too for students to be able to complete within your course. All right, so when we're actually texting, and one of the things that we try to stress this to our instructors and developers when we're working on courses on the instructional design side at the University of Memphis is we want to keep it, our communication simple. So if you're using email, or if you're using discussion board within your course, and in this context, it's going to be text through like Google Voice. We want to try to reduce cognitive load as much as possible. So kind of take out some of that filler, the busy work, if you will, with messages. We want to keep it simple and straight to the point. Use plain language. I know a lot of times in academia, we like to use a lot of big words and make people think we really know what we're talking about with a lot of adjectives and our language that we use on a daily basis communicating to admins. But we want to be able to use common language with our learners, especially when we have a lot of first-generation, first-time students in our courses. If you're teaching those freshman level classes, it's maybe the first college course they've taken. So we want to be able to use common language when we're communicating with our students, and then be intentional with our messages. Again, try to, if it's going to be a reminder about a midterm exam, keep the message short and have it be intentional just about the reminder. If they have any questions, you can have them email you or text you back with those questions. But we just want to keep it intentional and keep those communications short. All right, so there's some examples here when you're actually, when I've set up Google Voice, and we're going to walk through some scenarios too about how to set this up on the back end. But I have found that once I started using Google Voice, this is my probably 5th semester now using. I post it in the homepage of the course. I have a welcome video that I post every semester, just kind of giving an overview of the course, and I include my cell number in that video, as well as I put it on the homepage. I'm sorry, in the instructor information, and that first initial module that we have as a template in the Tennessee campus courses. So 2 different cases here. One I included just because it kind of had a little connection. We've been communicating back and forth with one particular student. I had posted a video. I think I had one of their projects. I was a little later than normal. I try to have responses greater than that 48 to 72 hours. But my wife was in the hospital for about a week, so I was a little bit later than normal with the grading. So I actually posted a message about that one in the course, and this particular student had reached out and was checking my wife and wanted to thank me for being flexible with her, because she also had some family health issues throughout that semester. Was a little late on submitting a couple assignments. And then another particular student reached out, and they wanted to just for me to check and let me know that they submitted one of the final case study papers in their class, and just wanted to be able to get some feedback. And so these are just some examples. Students a lot of times are a lot more comfortable texting you than they are emailing. And in both these situations, typically I think, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, these students were probably just emailing. But because they had an option to text, and then I don't actually remember, I grayed out their phone numbers. I'm not sure exactly what time these came in, but I know some students also text late. And I'm going to actually show you how to set up the settings within your Google account. So when you're actually getting these calls or text messages forward, you can set do not disturb hours. So the student is messaging you at 11 p.m., for instance, it won't actually alert your phone that late. So just a couple examples here of students reaching out. And then again, here is a welcome video that I post. Try to do one for each individual course each term. So this is one for actually a summer course that I'm teaching now. And then I kind of just close the video with, feel free to email me in the course or send a text, and I give them my cell phone, Google Voice number to be able to text. And it's also, I highlight that in the video too, where they can find it, which the screenshot on the right is the instructor contact information. And we all have this as kind of a template within our course, but I'll list my cell phone number there as well. And then in my email signature, when I'm emailing them, I'll also have it listed there. So if they have any questions regarding an email, they could just give me a call or shoot me a text. I've actually, to this date, never had a student call me directly. Probably since I've had Google Voice, I'll estimate probably 120, 130 students at least within those courses, but people just prefer text. So calling me is obviously an option, and I'd be happy to take any calls from them, but right now it's just all been text or the traditional email route as well. All right, so I had some screenshots for intelligent agents, but we may actually show that as a demo a little bit later. I know there's also a presentation, which I would highly encourage you to attend. That's later on in the schedule on intelligent agents, but you can actually tie these two together, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But if you want to actually set up this Google Voice, and if you're listening to this live or maybe watching a recording, feel free to follow along with these stuff. It's super easy. You have this set up in just a couple of minutes, but the website you'd want to go to is voice.google.com. And you should be able to see a little, your screen should look similar to what the screenshot is here. It's going to ask you for personal use or for business. And we're going to be selecting personal use here. And then once you get to the next screen, if you already have a Google account, which I'm sure many of us already do, you would go ahead and enter that email address within that box. Or if you don't, you can hit create an account. It's just a few screens of information there that'll ask you to be able to input all your personal information, create an account. And then once you got your account created, and you've logged, or you created an account, or you logged in, it's going to ask you to send a link to your cell phone number. So it's going to actually link it from your Google Voice account to your personal cell, and it's also going to send you a link where you actually download the app if you want to be able to have the app. They do have an Android app as well as iOS, Apple. And so if you're a big smartphone user, I highly recommend downloading the app. It's not required to have the app with this account. You can do everything just by the call forwarding or text, but it does make it easier to set a lot of these settings, and you have a more advanced functionality about having the app actually installed on your phone as well. So you just enter your phone number there, you hit send code, it'll send you a alphanumeric code to your phone, and then you will then verify on the back end. And so some of the things I want to highlight here, once you get it set up, you'll notice when you get to the login screen, and I can actually highlight this too in a live demo, but you'll see the settings option in the top right, little gear icon. And then once you click that, you'll be able to go through and be able to set up all the various options and settings on your Google Voice account. And then one screen right before this too, I apologize, I probably didn't have the screenshots in. You actually will select your number. So right before you get to this screen, it should ask you based on your location, that if you share your location through your browser, it'll actually detect the local area code and zip code that you're at and provide you a number. I'm here in Memphis, so it automatically detected Memphis for me. One of the great things about Google Voice is, let's say your cell phone, you may have moved across country. Say you're originally from California, for instance, and maybe you're in Nashville now teaching. Your personal cell phone may still have a California area code, but when you're using Google Voice, you can select any location within the United States to get a number for that area. So this is a great way to have a local number, maybe even if your personal number is not local, your Google Voice number can be local. And the same could be true, maybe you're teaching as an adjunct and you're cross country in California. If you want to have a Tennessee number, you can just detect that location and be able to get a local number there. You also notice there's an option if you ever need to change your number. Now there is a small fee for that to be able to change. I think it's $10. I'm actually gonna look that up real quick. I think it's a $10 fee to change your number. You get the first one for free, obviously. But there is an option to, if you click change, you can detect, yes, you can replace your Google number for $10. So it'll ask to take your payment account. And then you'll have the option to be able to select a new location if you needed to, or the same location, just get a new number. So if there was any situation where you need to change it, there's an option. And then at any time, you also can just delete or transfer. So if you ever had another Google account, or maybe you need to transfer that number to somebody else for any reason, you can actually transfer that, but they would have to have a Google account as well. It'll ask for their email address to be able to transfer it. You also notice that you have your linked devices. So I use mine through the web quite a bit, just because all of our, a lot of my productivity apps are connected to Google. So I've got Google apps open pretty much on a daily basis. So I can get those text message or phone call alerts through my desktop, but I also have the app, and you can customize those settings as well. So there's a couple other settings I want to highlight really quick. On this next slide. There we go. You also have the option to forward messages to email. I thought this really helpful. Again, I don't have a lot of students that call to leave me voicemails, but I do get a text alert. I have it set up to where if they text me, I also get an email for it. So that's also very helpful, especially if you want to tie those forward messages. I have it to my Gmail account, but you can forward those to your EDU account. So if you want to use your university email to be able to receive those text messages, alerts, or voicemails, you'll get notified through whatever account you set it up. And then you also notice that you get screen calls. I've highlighted this one just because if you do have a large class, or maybe you're sharing this number with other organizations or outside of the virtual class environment, you can have the option to where when they call, it's going to ask them to introduce themselves, basically. So it's going to say something about, please state your name, and they would state their name, and then you will get that notification on your end. So once you've had that call forwarded to, let's say, your personal cell phone, when you go to answer it, it's going to say you have an incoming Google Voice call from Scott Van, or whatever they say their name is. And then there'll be an option. I forget the exact language there, but something like press 1 to accept the call, or if you don't, you can just hang up and it will not let the call go through as a forward. You also have other options here about showing your Google number as a caller ID when forwarding calls. So when you get a call linked through your number, you actually get your Google Voice number to let you know that it was a forwarded call instead of their number. So that's kind of helpful too if you've maybe got some side business or other organizations that also got your cell phone and you want to know when those forwarded calls are coming through as a forward. If you select this option, then it will show your Google Voice as the caller ID, so you know it was actually a forward call coming through. All right, so I'm going to pause here, and then I'm going to pull up Google Voice, just kind of show you some other settings I didn't have screenshots for. And I'm happy to also take any questions. Mark, I believe everyone has the ability to unmute themselves. So if you want to unmute and ask questions, feel free. I also have chat open, so you can.
Right, I believe they do as well. I was just thinking, and maybe you said this and I missed it, but have you offered virtual office hours? You mentioned that no one has called you.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so I do virtual office hours. I do 3 hours. This semester it's been on Wednesday evenings. And what I've done with that is I typically have a Zoom room that I'll share as well as my phone number. I've found that students would sometimes just rather connect to the Zoom link. I keep the Zoom open for kind of just drop in. But yes, so they're welcome. I let them know in the welcome video they can call me anytime, even though I have virtual office hours posted. They can still connect with me outside of those hours. And I found I think it's just typical of most, even myself. I don't like talking on the phone much, so I'd much rather text or jump into a quick
Sure.
Zoom meeting. And so I think most of the students are still the same way. But I also let them remind them they have the option to call.
I'm not surprised that people prefer to text, because I'm
Yeah.
just I probably feel the same way unless it's just one of those conversations. But I'm just curious if that was an option for them and they still elected to text. But in your case, the Zoom meetings make a lot of sense too, because that's if you've got a little more detailed thing and just understanding each other. But
Right.
That's very cool. I like it.
Yeah, and I found that most of the office hours, if they ever get utilized, is towards the end of the semester, just when there's I teach managing software development, intro to system analysis and design, and the managing software development has a fairly large case study at the end of the term. So if there's any questions on that, students will sometimes drop in to that meeting. But for most cases, like I said, they prefer texting. Yeah, and so I'm just going to share my screen here and give a.
Hey Scott, this is Kari. Can I ask a question?
Hey.
Hey, nice to see you. It's been a while.
Good to hear you.
Yeah. Have you noticed that when you do actually connect Google Voice with your own phone, have you noticed some issues in prioritization? So for example, like personal phone text on your personal numbers kind of get suppressed sometimes. I've heard of issues like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So you're saying like it interfere with your personal calls that you get in?
Yes, like especially personal texts and stuff like that. Sometimes they get, so my wife uses Google Phone for her work, and we have seen that, sometimes her personal texts will come or will be suppressed and come at all at the same time. So I was wondering if you had noticed anything like that, or if you had tips for how to not do that.
Yeah, I actually haven't noticed that. Now, the only thing I forward to my phone currently is just the calls. Again, I'm not really getting many, so it's not much. I use the app quite a bit. So like the Google Voice app, it works really just like any other messenger app. It's got a pretty good, pretty easy to use interface. And so it's almost like its own text messaging service within the app.
Gotcha.
And so that's where I communicate, because I've got it set for push notifications. And you can actually limit, what time you get those notifications. So if you don't want students messaging at 2 a.m. and your phone going off, then you can set those hours. But I just actually use the app exclusively to text. Now I could see what would be a problem, because if you set the forward up, your class text or whoever you share that number with will be coming in with your personal text. And so it would be kind of hard maybe to keep those separate. So if you've got a smartphone that you can download the app, I would highly recommend downloading the app instead of
Okay, thank you. We'll try that out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and so once you can log in account, some of these screenshots I showed earlier, you'll notice again the settings option to the top right, and then I've got my personal cell linked here. You'll notice I've turned off the forward messages, so I'm not getting messages on my cell. I just get them through the app itself. And then same thing here with the different calls. You also can hide your caller ID. So if you didn't want students, which I wouldn't recommend doing this, because the whole purpose is I want students to connect with me. So it would be, if you're hiding their number, then they're not just limiting them to trying to connect you back. So then you got, again, screening the calls earlier, we talked about that, so that's an option there. And then, here's that do not disturb. So you can actually set up do not disturb. And we actually set up the app itself too. It has the time limit, so you can actually set the days and time that you want to be notified on the app. So that's really helpful. And then you have the option too to do a voicemail, which is really nice. So I've got a custom voicemail here. And the great thing about setting up your Google Voice and sharing it with your students is you can have a message just for your students that's different than the voicemail that you would have on your personal line. Yeah, and then I don't have my blood notifications. No, actually I do have them turned on here. So when you set up, if you're using especially Google Chrome, which is the web browser I use on a daily basis, you can actually get notifications. So even if I didn't have voice.google open and I was doing something else, maybe grading in Tennessee campus, if someone texts me, I would actually get a notification through the browser as well, which is really nice. And so whatever Chrome browser you're using, and that's across accounts. So you could have it, on your laptop, personal, or work, and you'll still get notifications on those. It does have an option to add payments. This has only really come up if you're doing international calling, which I've never had a need for. And then you can also have it to filter spam, which is really nice. It's got some advanced accessibility options, and this is more for like Google-wide settings. So if you're using contrast colors, or if you got your device set up for screen reader, all those functionalities and features will also be through Google Voice as well. So Mark, I know this was scheduled for 30 minutes, and we're at about 4 minutes left. So I'll stop here to answer any additional questions we had. I'm just going to include things about intelligent agents, but I know we got another session, so I don't want to step on the intelligent agent section. But when you're going through and you're setting up intelligent agent, that's a way to also include my phone number. I kind of send them a welcome email at the very beginning of class with the Google number as well. And you can do that through intelligent agent. So I highly recommend attending that session, and you can kind of use both together. And replace strings is really helpful, because that intelligent agents, you could do something like it's that squiggly bracket, first name, close bracket. And so it would actually look like a personal email. I do mine like, hi, first name, welcome to the class. And then that's when I'll remind them that they can text me anytime, and also include information about the course,
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great way to combine those technologies for sure. I think you've taken the mystery out of this for sure. It is pretty straightforward, but I really like the way you're connecting, how you're using it with students, and how they're engaging with you. That really is the goal of this.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, I think at least in my experience, the more that we can get students comfortable with communicating with you, the more successful they'll be in your course, and then just their college journey altogether. I know when I first started college, it was a little intimidating in my first couple courses. You kind of think of a faculty member as someone who's not wanting to communicate regularly with you. But I think by having these type of options, that they'll be a little more open to ask more questions and just kind of get to know them, especially since we're doing all this virtually. You can't have that in classroom.
Yes. Well, a long, long time ago, when I first started teaching, there was kind of a general reluctance to use your home telephone because there weren't cell phones. And you certainly, people would just be looking up your number and calling up and asking about homework or whatever at any time of the day or night. With this, you don't have to be disturbed if there are things or times or time frames that you need to be avoided. So I think it encourages all to be better connected without feeling like an invasion of our privacy.
Right. Sure.
And in my case, prank phone calls from 5th graders. So
that's always fun.
Yeah, that's kind of a fond memory now that I think back on it.
I'm sure. So,
all right.
Well, thank you so much for the time today. And again,
thank you for doing it. This is really good work, and I appreciate it. And I know the team does as well.
Yeah, well, reach out if you got any questions. I'd be happy to share any more information.